Yes. So think you have exam tomorrow. You feel stressed as your preparation didn't go well. What we do? We do repeat ourselves like, I don't remember anything. I haven't studied well for my exams, etc. Blah, blah, blah. So exams, which are inevitable part of any student's life, but they often bring a sense of fear and stress. So the pressure is to perform well, and the fear of failure, and the overwhelming amount of information to absorb at that, before your exam, it can sometimes take a toll on your mental and emotional well-being. Let's think that it's not just the case about the student. Imagine, suppose you are a working professional and your meeting is there and you stuck in the traffic. What are you going to do? How are you going to reach in time? That's what you are most worrying part. Like, how am I going to face my boss? Like how my colleagues are going to judge me, etc. So this is the time, where our stress level increases to such a frustrated, and we worsen the situation. So, but most of the people, they do ask me, like, whatever, they try, how much even they try, they can't, come out of the stress. But some people stay calm. How is it possible? So, hello, this is SAILAJA. I'm a clinical psychologist. Join my channel to the new members who are listening to me for the first time, and hit the subscribe button, as now you're going to learn some of the invaluable insights on how to deal with the stress for a healthier and happier life. And thanks for the people who are already subscribed and showing me your tremendous support to my channel for learning. Thanks. And stress is inevitable part of life, whatever your age is, whatever the phase you are. But how are we responding to it? All can make the difference. You agree? Yes. In this video, we are going to explore one of the powerful approach to deal with the stress that is developed by psychologist Richard Lazarus. By understanding and applying this method, we can build psychological resilience to navigate life challenges more effective way. So let's understand about the psychologist Richard Lazarus, who was a pioneering psychologist. He known for his work on stress and coping. Lazarus and Susan Folkman, they have written a book that is Stress, Appraisal and Coping. And in this book, that usually reshape our understanding of stress in a holistic way. Possibly read it. So in this book, the stress appraisal and how do you cope with the stress, these it all depends on how an individual assess and cope with the stressors. And also it emphasizes the role of your perception and understanding the dynamic interplay between the stress appraisal and also the effective coping strategies, what you are applying on the stress. So Richard Lazarus, he emphasized that stress is a product of the relationship between an individual and the environment. So his cognitive appraisal theory, he put forward that how we interpret and evaluate the situation, and that determines our emotional and physiological response. So now this Lazarus method, it has two key components or two key elements, we can say. One is the primary appraisal and the second is secondary appraisal. Very easy, right? Understanding. Primary appraisal, where we evaluate the significance of an event, and the secondary appraisal is like our ability to cope with that. So primary appraisal, let me tell you once again how we evaluate that situation significance. Secondary appraisal is the individual's assessing ability to cope with that. So primary appraisal, it determines, suppose if that particular event is a threat or challenge or harm, and the secondary appraisal is that gauging your personal resources and coping abilities. So both the stages, it can shape your emotional response to the stress. I hope you got it. Next, considering, let's take one example. Consider a student who's facing an upcoming exam, and in the primary appraisal, they may perceive like, exam as a significant, stressor, fearing failure, etc. And employing this particular method, Lazarus method, again, secondary appraisal, right? Where the student assess their study skills and available resources. By focusing on effective study strategies, the student can shift their perception and approach the exam with greater confidence so that can reduce the stress. Let's take one more example. Imagine a working professional who's dealing a project at work, who's dealing with a challenging project at the work. What could be the primary appraisal? Guess. It may involve that perceiving that project itself as an overwhelming. Correct? Now, applying the secondary appraisal. So, evaluating his or her own skills and seeking support from the colleagues is a secondary appraisal. Now, by breaking down this project or manageable task and leveraging their strengths, the professional can transform stress into motivation by changing the perception, right? And can gain a sense of accomplishment. So now we need to understand mastering stress with this Lazarus powerful method can empower individuals to take control of their emotional responses and build resilience in the face of adversity, and also provide a valuable framework for managing the stress. So by applying these principles like to various aspects of life, don't you think that you can cultivate a mindset that turns stress into an opportunity for growth and personal development? Yes, we can do it. It is only that we had to think about the primary and secondary appraisal. Remember, it's not about avoiding the stress, but learning to navigate it with strength and resilience. Let's understand how this approach integrates the neurological and psychological perspective, offering like practical techniques that can transform your habits for long-term resilience. Now let's take talk on the neurological perspective. Usually the brain's response to stress, it involves the activation of sympathetic nervous system. Correct? So the sympathetic nervous system, what it does, it releases the stress hormones like cortisol. Chronic stress, it can negatively impact the part of the brain. Which part of the brain? Hippocampus, a region crucial for memory and learning itself. Implementing the Lazarus method or any helpful approach that you feel okay to regulate the stress response by engaging the prefrontal cortex responsible for decision making and problem solving, you can absolutely deal with it. Let's see one more important technique. People do talk like breathing techniques, mindfulness, mindful breathing, blah, blah, blah. This is one of the effective technique, mindful breathing, no doubt about it. But when a student feels overwhelmed, they can engage in deep rhythmic breathing. But, I don't know how far, people at that stressful situation, they are ready to do all this. But, do it, believe me that, the rhythmic breathing, deep breathing or mindful breathing, it helps. This activates parasympathetic nervous system, and this promotes relaxation and reduce the physiological impact of the stress. By regular practice of mindful breathing, it can help build a resilience over a period of time, enhancing your brain's ability to manage the stress more effectively. Right? Now, psychological perspective. From a psychological standpoint, how this Lazarus method, it can help you, because the Lazarus method, psychological perspective, it involves the cognitive appraisal, whereas individual, they assess the situation and reinterpret that stressor, etc. So for students, suppose a student facing exam stress, this means that shifting from a perception of threat to a more positive and manageable outlook, this can be achieved through cognitive restructuring and adopting a growth mindset. But what happens, if I am truly believing this as a threat, I can't perform this exam, whatever you think it manifests. Now, it is very much important that what you believe, you need to restructure your thought so that from this fearful response to a more positive approach you have to adopt. Now, that means reframing your failure rather than viewing a potential exam failure as a catastrophe. Students, if you really try, reframe this threat as an opportunity for growth and learning, I'm sure you can do it. This shift in perspective engages the brain's plasticity, encouraging a positive approach to challenges. By recognizing that setbacks are a natural part of the learning process. Students can alleviate the psychological burden of exams and approach them with a mindset geared towards the improvement rather than the fearful response or fearful, or the stressful event. So I also think that stress is really, not only just a negatively impact. Like stress is needed, sometimes to perform an event or anything, in a better way. Stress is needed. So let's not think, that it can only burden or it can create anxiety or fear. It is needed for you to perform at an optimum level. So here, when we talk about the stress, usually people also do talk about the defense mechanisms and cognitive distortions and all that. So these defense mechanisms, when we talk about it, they are the subconscious actions or the strategies that is there, like to protect you from or against the anxiety, such as denial or repression. Cognitive distortions, whereas they are the irrational thought patterns that can amplify stress, including like catastrophizing, black and white thinking, or overgeneralization, etc. Both defense mechanisms and cognitive distortions impact how any individual perceive the stressful situation and your response, and this influence your emotional well-being and also like your adaptive coping mechanisms. So first is recognizing and addressing those cognitive distortions, while understanding defense mechanisms are essential part in promoting healthier stress management and fostering psychological resilience, what I strongly feel is. So now we have understood about a lot about the stress and then its management and Lazarus methods and all that. Now, what are the practical implementation strategies, and what can I apply so that it works for me? When I feel stressful, that's where we are at now. So let's look some of the strategies, and I want you to apply these strategies. I believe and then apply these strategies, and how it worked for you. Update me as well. So the first, the strategy or the tip, whatever you think, is the self-awareness, being aware. Now, people who identify their stress triggers and emotional response, they have to apply these helpful methods to deal that stress healthily. That means just identifying or recognizing and taking the responsibility to address those triggers, and then like how you need to deal that in a healthy way is the first you have to aware, recognize, and take the responsibility of and acknowledge those whatever your emotional responses towards your stressors, that you have to acknowledge as well. Because until and unless you are aware of those stressful triggers and your emotional responses towards that stress, you know sometimes we don't acknowledge those responses, then it will not help you. So what you are supposed to do is first you have to being aware, and then take the recognizing and then take the responsibility to address in a healthy way. So this only can take you to the next strategy, or the tip is reframing your perspective. So the next step is reframing your perspective. Now, when we understand how do we reframe our perspective, it can only happen by challenging your negative thoughts. How do I challenge? You need to first, when we acknowledge, then only we think that yeah, I can challenge and reframe that particular situations in a more positive way, that can't do to can do. Don't be just blank, like just go and then I can do it and then do it. No, it's not like that. What you're supposed to do it, like first you have to restructure your thought and your emotional responses and take the responsibility to perform the action also, and then only your thought, your emotional response, and your action, this can reframe your perspective to do in a more positive way. Next is problem solving. The next step is that first I after reframing perspective and all that, what is my problem, what are the steps I need to take to address my stressor. How can I regain a sense of control? All this can be possible. I have to like, my approach is like more solution oriented rather than the problem oriented. I hope you got it. Next step is cognitive restructuring. Cognitive restructuring, it encourages positive self-talk. What we do most of the times, if you really observe your inner talk, always, like whenever there is any stressful event or any kind of event, what is your inner dialogue? Is it like the things which you cannot perform or you cannot do, those things are going on? Or what is that, your inner talk? So identify that first. Suppose you're thinking that I can't do this. I can't talk in front of that person. I can't write this exam. And this project is going to be mess. I can't deal with this situation. Today I'm going to stuck. All this negative self-talk repeatedly, it definitely give the negative impact to your mind. So what you have to do is encourage the positive self-talk and be like more of like observer. You start observing, what kind of inner talk is going on. Suppose you think that's like most of the time it is like negatively, and then challenge these negative thoughts related to that particular challenging situation. It could be exam, it could be project, or it could be family relationships, or anything it might be. So restructuring your thought, correcting your irrational or the negative thoughts, challenge those thoughts, and then reframing it, all that can happen over a period of time. This will not happen in a day. There should be a consistent effort has to be put. And then slowly you can restructure your thought towards the challenging situation. Next is time management. The most important point is the time management. When we think that there are many tasks like to-do list, what am I doing? I am procrastinating, or what is it I'm doing? I'm just stuck, or I'm thinking that I can't do it, or what is it making me not to do it, or am I not managing my daily schedule properly? So I need to identify again here this time management strategy. You have to take it as a priority. Break down your task. It could be your exam schedule, or your study academic schedule, or your task in your office, or whatever it is, the pending task. Make it as a manageable chunks, and then the manageable practical chunks, and then promote a sense of control and an accomplishment. Again, if you think that I can't do it, again you need to go from the first strategy and then come back to your time management, and then you need to plan in a proper way. Peer support. Peer support by like establishing study groups or seeking help from peers, it fosters a supportive environment, reducing feelings of isolation. Next, seeking social support. Connect with others to share your experience and gain valuable perspective. Most of the time, we try to do everything, by ourselves, and we think that we are the king or queen. No, it's not like that. We need to seek social support, connect with others, how are the things are going on, and where can I correct, and then where I need to improve. All these things, by connecting with others, we learn more, and reframe your experiences. The next strategy is reflect and learn. Periodically reflect on your experience. Most of the people, they say that I don't have time. That's really interesting. I know we don't have time, but if you don't reflect on your experience, but after your any stressful situation, consider what's going to happen. So it's always important, reflecting on your own experiences, whatever it is. It could be a good or bad or any kind of situation. Consider what actually worked well for you, what could be improved. Sometimes it can be done like every day, or like alternative day, or if you're so busy in that, weekly, monthly is like too much. I will say that alternative day or weekly is more appropriate. So reflect and learn from your experiences and consider what has to be improved and what worked well, and what are the learnings from these reflections. Definitely it refines the ability to apprise and cope with the stress effectively, what I strongly feel is. And the most important and neglected part, I would say that, we have time for everything, but, no time for our self-care, right? So I will say that prioritize the self-care activities to enhance overall well-being is the most important. Don't neglect this part. Now, implementing all these strategies through a systematic approach in a holistic way, don't you think that we can address our stressful events in an effective way? Both neurologically or the psychological aspects, considering those things. Can't we deal with the stress? We can definitely do that. But, I need to do that by these practices I need to incorporate in daily life, like, mindful breathing, cognitive restructuring, and, building the good habits, like, habit formation, what we say that all these things, it can alleviate immediate stress, and also, believe me, it will contribute to long-term resilience and success in personal, professional, academic, or what kind of endeavor could be. So the key aspect, I hope you understood after listening to me all this, consistent practice and a commitment to transform the way how we are, from, like, the way stress is perceived, and I am managing that. So a key is consistent practice and then commitment to transform. So now to conclude with, understanding mastering stress, it is not a one-day job, correct? It's a journey. It's a journey towards a healthier, more resilient you. Remember, it's not about like avoiding the stress. We are not avoiding, but navigating it with purpose. I'm telling many times, it's not avoiding, it's navigating with purpose. Embrace the power of cognitive appraisal, practice self-awareness, adopt effective coping strategies. I think all this, you can do that will help you, to gain confidence, and whatever you want to attain, you can easily deal with that. So I'm done with my video. Subscribe for more insights, and let's embark on this transformative journey together. Believe me, your well-being matters, and I'm here to support you at every step of the way. Until next time, stay resilient, stay empowered. Thank you very much.